Bom dia, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream YouTube channel and podcast, of course, which you can hear on Spotify. Now, I'm just going to change my microphone because I think I've got the wrong one on. And yes, a busy day once more of finally resolving my move. It's a bit of a mixed blessing, really, to be able to move gradually because it kind of never really ends. But I think I've done it now, and we are firmly and properly moved from Korea in the Aveiro district to Anadia, just up the road, actually, just up the road in Anadia, also in the Aveiro district. So I hope you can hear me properly now, and a very good morning to you. How was your weekend? Do let me know in the comments. It's going to be a bit of an easygoing show this morning. Because yes, I'm still creaking basically from the final parts of my move, and we were going to have an Ask Diogo and an interesting story to tell there because Diogo cannot join us unfortunately this morning, which is fine because he was doing this from his holiday. To be fair, and I'm quite amused because the idea with the Ask Diogo was to ask him questions, the expats expert about. Anything that we were interested in, and we wanted to find out the truth from a real Portuguese person, real Portuguese man. And he asked me for some advice before the weekend or at the weekend, and he was on his way to Tomar, an area where I've lived, and he said, "Where should I visit?" And I was so delighted. Whenever Portuguese people ask me for advice, I get a little bit worried because I feel a bit under pressure telling them about their own country and so on. But I was able to recommend to him, because I lived over there in the Tomar area, to go to Agroal, the river beach in Agroal, which is superb. And as you know, I'm a massive fan of, you may know, I'm a massive fan of river beaches in Portugal. I think it's a wonderful tradition, part of the culture. He went to Agroal, I believe, and loved it. But more importantly, went to Dornes. Have you been to Dornes? Dornes is beautiful, very kind of spiritual vibe. I mean, Tomar's got a bit of a spiritual vibe going on, obviously, with the Knights Templar and its traditions going back, and Dornes is no exception to that either. Probably about 20-minute drive out of Tomar, and lovely beaches. Not so much a river beach, more beaches around a huge lake. So Dornes, well worth a visit on that massive list of places we should all go to in Portugal. It's a big list, is it not? Do the weather in just a moment, but let's say a few hellos this morning. So Diogo, yeah. I do get distracted, don't I? Bottom line, there's Diogo can't join us this morning. We can forward the questions on to him, of course. If you are thinking to yourself, "Oh, I know what I was going to ask that Diogo bloke," don't be disappointed. Send them to me anyway. PM me, carl@carlmunson.com, and I'll make sure they get to Diogo, and we'll have him on another time. So we'll just have a look at the weather, and we'll have a look at the news as well this morning. Lovely email came in responding to how we should learn the language. Not if we should. Come on, guys. We definitely should be applying ourselves to Portuguese. But I had a lovely email in from Ray in England, who said who's given us a few tips basically about the way to go about it, because he's a bit of a language expert, I think. So, and anything else you want to talk about this morning? Whether it be Asian hornets. I see a load of Asian hornets have been exterminated, basically. Not a welcome visitor to Portugal. I believe they arrived in the north of the country about 10 years ago and have been a bit of a problem ever since. But that's one end of nature. The other you will have seen on the starter screen this morning. Let me just show you. Isn't that beautiful? Apologies to you on the podcast, but that is a swallowtail butterfly worth looking up to accompany the podcast this morning. Thank you, Owen Lloyd-Martin, for those pictures of swallowtail butterflies that were captured on his phone in the garden. Absolutely beautiful things. They are extraordinary. They are a miracle. I mean, I think butterflies are like that anyway, but when you see something on that sort of scale, it's off the scale. Basically. So a few mornings. Bon dia, success with the move. Thanks, Genie. I mean, I have been going on about it for too long. And as I was saying, I was able to access both properties overlapping. And for me, that's the most civilized way to move and to, have time to do it. But that means it can drift. And that's what I've been suffering from. But seriously, it's no big deal, really. No biggie. Just a load more clutter. And Yeah, stuff to be dealing. What is it with us human beings and stuff? And when you move country, it's a good opportunity, is it not? To I mean, this might be a nice little theme to talk about this morning. How are you going to be doing this? Are you going to take advantage of moving country and minimalize your stuff, which is what I thought I'd done? And then you turn your back and it's like grown again. It kind of replicates or reproduces behind your back in the corner, in the dark corners of your attic and so on. And again, suddenly so much more. And I'm looking at the dreaded guitar that Mrs. M made us bring from England that none of us can play. But it's one of those things that I've begun to resent, moving from home to home. Yes, of course, we'll find the time to learn to play the guitar one day. That's after we've learned Portuguese, of course, and the ukulele and everything else that we're going to be doing, preserving, all these sorts of things, making kefir, etc., etc. But are you going to use the opportunity to move to declutter? Because let me tell you, that stuff will reproduce again. And before you know it, if you make a second move in Portugal, you think, where did all this come from? And for those of you who are doing a bit of refurbishment work, have you got, I mean, this is one of the things that staggered me yesterday, is the amount of tools and bits and pieces. You know how people keep bits of wood. This is generally men. I don't think I'm being sexist here, but you keep that little bit of timber that you think is going to be useful. I've got bits of wood and old screws and fixings. I mean, I've got stuff from a house I bought in the 90s, that was kept, that I inherited in that move, that I've kept thinking it will be useful. Are you bringing that tiny square of balsa wood just in case it becomes useful one day? Are you one of those expats who's going to move everything you've got in containers and have it delivered to the new place? Or are you going to get minimal and get rid of it, as much of it as possible? Okay, enough about moving for the time being. We'll come back to that. Hola, bon dia from a grim south of England. Very damp weekend again. Sorry to hear that, Paul. And I hope you're doing well, sir. Thank you for saying good morning. Bon dia, Carl. Had a great weekend golfing, thanks. Congrats on the successful mobile. Cheers, Jim. Appreciate it. We still got to friend up on Facebook, haven't we? Hola, bon dia from Claire Bendel. How you doing, Claire? Good morning to you this morning. And I wonder, how are people feeling, sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, or in a similar condition to me after a busy or enjoyable weekend? I noticed a lot more people were out in the Parque de Morendas the weekend, so people are drifting back out. And actually, I have to say, parts of Portugal that only on my doorstep, really, but it's like nothing ever happened. It's quite nice. And did some of you oldies know that? Did you all know that the pandemic was going to be a bit sort of dramatic, possibly over dramatic, notwithstanding, obviously, people who have suffered in this pandemic? But were some of you oldies like, it'll blow over? And it looks like, for the majority, that might be the case, right? Notwithstanding the media terror of second waves and outbreaks and so on. But did some of you old timers think, yeah, it'll be all right? I don't know what accent to do that in, but yeah, it'll be fine. It'll blow over. Human beings, they do get a bit dramatic. And it looks to me, at certain parts of the country where I've been over this weekend, it makes it sound like I've been traveling all over Portugal, but around my neighborhood, driving about, it's as though nothing ever happened in certain corners. And I'm glad to be able to say that. Morning. So happy we're back at our home in Portugal. Took 5 minutes to book flights after the air bridge was announced. That was one story I was going to have a look at, Yvonne, this morning. I'm so glad for you. That was, again, the old timers, yeah, that'll blow over. Don't worry. You'll soon be back over here. And on the other side of it, it was like, our lives have changed drastically forever. Life will never be the same again. But that's the other side of human nature, isn't it? People have drifted back to, it was like, that old saying, stop the world, I want to get off. Well, the world did get stopped, didn't it? And then people started saying, so we're a contrary bunch, us humans. So at times it's been stop the world, I want to get off, when it was getting too hectic. And then it's like, start the world, I want to get back on again. Never happy. Ty Johnson, in fact, they are off to Dornes later this morning. I don't know if that's the first time for you, Ty, but it is a beautiful place, and I think you'll have a lovely time and very wise. This is one of the great things about being an expat retiree, is you can go to places on a Monday. I used to work weekends and take Monday and Tuesday off in Devon, and it was the best thing we ever did as a family, because we were out and about while everything was quiet and we had the place to ourselves. And I'm sure a lot of expats in Portugal who've retired feel like that as well. Why go out at the weekend if you're retired? Why not go off out on a Monday, like it sounds like Ty and Joe are doing. So good morning to you both. Have a super time in Dornes. Bom dia, pessoas lindas. Passei dias fantástico em Coimbra. What he's saying there is have a good day to you, beautiful people. And he had a fantastic day in Coimbra. Owen has been, he talked to us, didn't he, about the food tour he was going to do, because he's a bit of a dab hand in the kitchen and with local ingredients, etc. Very creative, makes very delicious food. And he was talking about doing a food tour. And I think that's begun. Because as far as I'm able to tell from his timeline, he's been in Porto, he's been in Coimbra, and he's been visiting some very excellent eateries and having some great experiences. So do share those with us, Owen, anytime. And thank you for your swallowtail pictures this morning. They're absolutely superb, exquisite. Another of our pictorial correspondents, Pete. Good morning from a sunny and warm Castanheira de Pera. Tired today after, so it's not just me, tired today after a 2-hour-long river walk along the Ribeira de Pera yesterday. Sounds beautiful, Pete, and I trust you had good weather for that. Fonte de Cima restaurant in Dornes is fantastic. Great fish and very friendly and speak English. Come on, we're trying to learn the language here, but that's always nice, isn't it, if you just want to relax and you don't have any stress like that. Fonte de Cima there, so a recommendation into Dornes. Great fish and very friendly. Presumably the staff and not the fish. Downsizing, we just started. Okay, so Jeannie's approach with the expat move then for her from Belgium is to start getting rid of stuff. And that therein lies its own challenge, right? Do you keep those bits of wood that are good bits of timber that are coming useful, and those fixings that you say? I even recycle cable ties when I get the chance. So on the one hand, I really love the joy of the minimal. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's what's happened to us human beings. Like, the ecologically sensitive ones think, well, we can't chuck anything away. That would be wasteful. And in the same mind, we're thinking it's lovely to be minimalistic, isn't it? And the two things don't work together, do they? Eco guilt and wanting a simple, downsized, downshifted, minimalist life just do not go together. So I'm interested to know what you're doing. Downsizing for you there, Jeannie. Good luck with that. Yes, I'm just sending my husband to the tip with all the bits of wood he's saved. What is it then about men and bits of wood? And the worst case scenario of men not importing themselves. Well, you're importing the wood, but like moving country and still can't detach themselves from those bits of wood they've saved. That's a grim day there in Devon. The husband is being sent to the tip with all those bits of wood he saved. Can we set up some sort of mercy mission where another man might adopt those pieces of wood so they don't have to be turned into sawdust? How do you spell Dornes? Oh, Dornes, Dornes. I think I sent Henry there, didn't I, on his tour? Henry and Nina went to Dornes. There's some fabulous property there, actually, overlooking the lake. Really good place. Dornes for you there, Penny. Ty, I did, see, we go. It's not just me. I did bring all my screws, nuts, bolts, and tools, but I did draw the line at the wood collection. Okay, so you were able to detach it. Did you have to have counselling for that, Ty? Or all went down to the recycling centres? So that's the way, isn't it? Even if, as we sometimes discover, the recycling just all goes into landfill anyway, and it's just like a psychological exercise to make everyone feel like they're doing their bit, like green propaganda, greenwashing. It does feel good, doesn't it? And it's great here in Portugal that you can that's the last vestige to assuage your guilt, is at least if it's glass, plastic, paper, cardboard, or metal, you can stick it in the appropriate receptacle. The waste disposal here is fantastic. It's quite incredible. I don't know if you ever saw that picture of like the 200 little wine flagons that ended up outside my bins in the last house we were in. It was extraordinary. And I think in England, it would have caused an uproar among the waste disposal services. They just came and got it here. It was amazing. But that sounds like a win-win, Ty. Ty's wood collection has now been chipped up into a worktop or something like that, recycled. So he brought everything but the wood collection. People do know what I'm talking about. Interesting. Morning. Finally, we get back to Porto this weekend, says Andrew. No, great to see you here, Andrew, this morning. And I am delighted for you and anybody who's felt the lack of Portugal and is now able to get back. 20 years ago, I sold my house in Jersey, reduced all my belongings to one rucksack and a surfboard bag, and off I went. A very liberating feeling, all of your own on your back. Yes, all that you own on your back. I see. Have tons of junk now, though. This is it. What is it about the human being that does that? We're essentially. I was thinking about this in one of the darker moments of my moving yesterday. I was thinking, what is it about us human beings? We're like those, those sort of Neanderthals you see represented in movies or cartoons. What we do is we just pick things up, don't we? Walk around. It's like hunter-gathering, basically. Our hunter-gathering instincts never leave us. So we walk around. And here's a good example. What's this on my desk here? It's a laser pen. Who needs one of these? No one needs one of these, but it got made, didn't it? By a Chinese child, no doubt. And now here it is on my desk. I can't throw that away because it seems like something Joe 90 would have had, or it was on Tomorrow's World 50 years ago, that nobody would have a laser as powerful as this in their hands. But this is what we do. We go around, we pick something up and go, stuff. Can I eat it? No. Can I use it to protect myself? Maybe. I could get a saber-toothed tiger with the laser bit of it and dazzle the saber-toothed tiger and save myself. Can I make a shelter out of it? I could light the inside of the shelter with it. And that's it. I think we have discovered an anthropological phenomenon this morning. We are still hunter-gatherers. Everything we encounter, we pick it up. First of all, we see if we can eat it or drink it. If we can't, we see if we can use it to defend ourselves. If we can't do that, we make a shelter from it. And failing that, we put it with all the bits of wood. So there we go. I'm glad we've sorted that out. Bon dia, my dear. Bon dia, my dear. We are upsizing. This is, and the inevitable trend of the hunter-gatherer is to, as soon as you get still, you start expanding, which sounds like the expat lifestyle all over, doesn't it? You get still and start expanding. Yes, weekends are now for relaxing in and around the house and village. The weekend starts now on Segunda and finishes on Sexta. That is the expat weekend. I love that, Ty. We're discovering all sorts of sociological and anthropological phenomena this morning on the show. What a learned bunch we are, and what a reflective and philosophical bunch we are. That's fantastic. So a weekend that goes from Segunda and ends with Sexta. It's nice to end the day with sex in it, even if it's only the name of the week. Wayne Barker, hola, bon dia todos, making plans for our return. It sounds like a military campaign, that. Missing the lifestyle and the pace of the village and our besties. You will. Once tasted, never forgotten, or once experienced, never forgotten. So yeah, looking forward to you being back, Wayne, and thank you for your contributions to our expat sport report on Friday. That was a lot of fun. We paid 40 quid return the moment the quarantine rules changed. The same flights are now £250 each. Ouch. Some people are doing well in this, is all I can say to that. That is, that's painful, isn't it? You could argue, of course, that 40 was just, how long could that continue? But seriously, a change of that scale, that's not right, is it? My nut and bolt collection has saved my bacon many times. Here's a man justifying all that stuff. Here we go, Gary. My nut and bolt collection has saved my bacon many times and prevented unnecessary trips to the shops. This is one of my justifications, Gary. And hours of fun tipping out the box of nuts and bolts and old screws and stuff, and jabbing your finger with a pin that found its way in there. Anyone done that? Or a Stanley blade, that's in your tin of old stuff. And it's usually an old-fashioned tin of some sort, isn't it? A Quality Street tin or something old to suit the job as well. But I see what you mean, mate. I see what you mean. But I also think, these days you can, presumably you're the sort as well who walks through Lidl. In the middle of Lidl, you'll see a box of nuts and bolts, and you think, $5.99. That'll also save my bacon. If I have that just in the background, and then your companion is saying, do you really need that extra? Is it a bit like that pneumatic drill you bought last week? And we only came out for a pint of milk sort of thing. But yes, trials and tribulations of the DIYer. I totally get it, Gary, I really do. And did you bring that collection of nuts and bolts from the UK? Shelley, you see, you're not helping me. I can't get rid of this now. Your laser pen is great to use on acupuncture points. You can get rid of your pains. So do you mean all the pain I've made for myself moving unnecessary stuff? I can now alleviate with this thing. Don't look into it, Carl. I mean, how many people have looked at that warning that says don't look into this and thought, I wonder what happens if you look into it? No, not with your pieces of wood. I'm not sure what you mean, but it's funny anyway. Oh my goodness. 20 past and we still haven't looked at the weather. As Wogan would say, 20 past and not a child in the house washed. I'm sure that's true here as well. Let's have a look at the weather then. For you people who are enjoying your segunda sexta weekend, your 5-day weekend. Oh, crikey, even the weather's tired now. It's not loading up for me. That's really bizarre. I've got an email to read you. For the folks who are dragging their feet with the language, Ray has come to our aid, and I'll read his email out in a moment. Love to get all your feedback, whether it be via email or in the comments, PMs on the Facebook page. Lovely to hear from you outside of office hours, as it were. 22 degrees in Lisbon at the moment and clear, rising to a whopping 31 today. It's going to be hot in the city. In the capital city today, 31 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Porto, 20 degrees and partly cloudy at the moment, rising to a cloudy 28 degrees. Shelley, you made me laugh. Coimbra, 19 degrees at the moment, rising. Oh, my word, I'm glad I'm not moving today. 33 today in the Coimbra district area, and in Faro, 26 degrees this Monday, Segunda, and currently 23 and no cloud there. Getting a bit cloudy midweek in Faro. Porto is cloudy at the moment and the cloud will return on Thursday. But in Lisbon, a lovely looking week, actually. So lovely for those people who have felt the need to get to the capital pronto with the air ban or the air corridor being remade and positively regarded. Beautiful week to look forward to in the capital. All right, so let's see what's in the news, shall we? But not until we've said Bom Segunda aos todos. A lot more Portuguese. This is really good. So well done, Neil, for saying happy Tuesday to everybody. That's really good. Yeah, this is excellent. The more people are speaking Portuguese in the comments. Difficult to say goodbye when things are of emotional value, like old negatives on glass photographed by great grandfathers. See, this is the tricky thing, isn't it? I've got, chattels and effects that feel like it would be wrong to get rid of them. But where do you draw the line? I mean, you can, I know it's not the same with this instance, but you can photograph things if you just want the emotional nourishment. You can look at a photo of something, can't you? And then just get rid of the physical thing. But I know that's even probably going to upset some people just saying that. It's one of those things. I guess it's one of those things. It's a matter of finding balance with it, isn't it? But that sounds like a bit of baggage to me, Gina. I know it sounds like some lovely baggage. Did I say Tuesday? Hold on, I'll come back to that in just a moment. Difficult to say goodbye when things are of an emotional value, like old negatives on glass photographed by great grandfathers. I mean, how many of those have you got? And they're fragile. Just bizarre, huh? And we do end up with the strangest things, don't we? See, my great grandchildren might end up with this laser pen from great granddad Carl, thinking we can't get rid of that. It was really important to him. And the funny thing is, it isn't. It just so isn't it. And I don't want them to be thinking stuff like that. And they're in Scandinavia, I believe. There are some oldies who don't put that burden on the coming generations. They get it all cleared up and dealt with, so that somebody else doesn't have to do that, which I think is very respectful and good. Perhaps a little bit maudlin as well for this happy Monday, of course. Thank you, Gary. See, here's Gary Reality Check Austin. Yes, of course. Bom segunda aos todos is happy Monday, everybody. Now, you'll know why we're going into a bit of the language stuff here, aren't we? Because you'll know why I think it's Tuesday. Because in my mind and the culture that I grew up in, the second day of the week would be Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay. In Portugal, of course, the second day of the week is the day after the holy day. The first day of the week is Sunday. So segunda-feira is Monday, which it takes a bit of getting used to. As you can see there, I slipped up in my translation of that. And I hope my explanation was a good one. And it's a really good insight, isn't it, of course, into Portuguese culture and history, that the days would be named in that way. Segunda, terça, quarta, quinta, sexta-feira. And of course, Sabado for Saturday, showing off a little bit there. So we'll finish going back to Ray's email about good ways to learn the language after we've had a quick look at the news. I'm loving the leisurely and convivial atmosphere of the show this morning. I'll put this on the screen for you. Anything that takes your fancy, shout out, and we'll read it. But it's, I've got to say, it's a bit of a Monday as far as the news goes. A victory for Portugal Airbridge campaign, obviously. Excuse me for a moment. I just need to cough, but I'm going to spare you the sound effect. There you go, all done. And let me just put a less confusing background there so you can see what's going on the screen. Fantastic. It's quite Monday-ish. Victory for Portugal air campaign. We know that now, don't we? ASAE clamps down on supermarkets. The Authority of Health and Economy Security, ASAE, seized 450 kilograms of food in supermarkets and markets in touristic areas in an operation involving about 300 commercial establishments. I have to find out more. What happened here? Why would that be? The 450 kilograms of seized food represents 150 units of products at an estimated value of 3.4 thousand euros, advances ASAE. The plot thickens. The inspection operation in question has been ongoing for the past few weeks. Targeted, yes, but why? In a statement, ASAE adds that the criminal case was initiated for price speculation in the sale of foodstuffs and 50 administrative offences for several infractions. This sounds so serious, unlike something you'd see on an American detective drama, but no, it's just in the Portuguese supermarkets, everybody. Among the reasons for administrative offence processes, the authority points out the lack of prior communication, the non-compliance with hygiene and food safety requirements, the lack of prices and infractions related to the complaints book. It was also decreed to suspend the activity of a mini market for, see, I told you it was a Monday news day, for failing to comply with general and specific. Shock horror. ASAE clamping down on supermarkets. Another supermarket story. This is a little bit of anecdotal business. Is it true, folks, that Pinga Doce, and we're sounding like a proper parochial expat breakfast show now. Is it true that if you spend over 75 euros in Pinga Doce at the moment, they give you a free bag of shopping and groceries? Let me know if that is true, because I've got one near me, and I might make that stretch if that's the case. Bon dia, Carl. Later again. Don't worry, Jeff. No problem at all. Thanks for the link you sent me yesterday. I think I received it a bit too late, but thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's go back to the news. That was a bit of a damp squib of a news item. Should we see if we can improve upon that? You know how sometimes it crashes when I go to these. I'm wishing that would happen almost this morning. Okay. Government facilitates access for immigrants to higher education. Oh, this could be interesting then. Oh, emigrants, not immigrants. Okay. I'm going back up the truck. Casa Fernando Pusher. Oh, okay. This looks good. This is a bit of culture for us. Okay, so we have featured and looked at the cultural phenomenon that is, going back to Gary, phenomenon. Casa Fernando Pessoa, CFP in Lisbon, reopens on the 29th of August with Paixão, is it? Paixão. Reopens on the 29th of August with a new exhibition, a relocated auditorium and a renovated library after 16 months of work. Okay, very important Portuguese cultural historical icon. The CFP, this sounds like a good trip, actually. This could be a Good Morning Portugal field trip in the neighborhood of Campo do Ourique, where Fernando Paixão, 1888 to 1935, lived the last 15 years of his life, closed in March last year for remodeling works. The remodeling project is the responsibility of the José Adrião Arquiteto Studio and the museography project of the design company GBNT, signed by designers Nuno Qua and Claudio Silva, having been executed based on the proposal by Paulo. Lot of detail there, but anyway, suffice to say that this collection of books and his library, as well as poetry by various authors, national and foreign, which have also been renovated, allowing to receive with better working conditions researchers and students. And so that reopens then, a cultural icon, historical icon, basically the Fernando Pachon Center. Reopens 29th of August in the capital. This is such a Monday news day, isn't it? Has anyone got anything from their locality? Thank you, though. I mean, by the way, I should say thank you very much to Portugal News for that coverage, at least. So really appreciate that. But I'm struggling to find anything of massive interest. It is a Monday morning. Let me check the Portugal resident now. Your daily news from Portugal, covering, of course, the travel corridor. Marcelo was in Portimão last week. It's so Monday-ish, you just wouldn't believe it. GNR police shut down illegal cannabis plantation in Monchique. Okay, I'm just going to leave the news there now and go to this wonderful email from Ray. Suffice to say, before we go there, almost sorted the wine for Thursday, but do I play safe or take the high-risk option? Watch this. He's teasing us, is Gary. Gary was tasked with finding a Lidl, a rosé at Lidl for our tasting, for our pleasure, our victual pleasure on Thursday. When we have the new time of the wine club, basically, the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, Thursdays at 9:00. And we are passing around it's not the talking stick, it's the drinking stick, or the glass, I suppose. We're passing around the sacred corkscrew. And Gary is the first in line after the hiccuping headmistress, Healy. And he has been tasked with finding a rosé at Lidl for us to try. So if you like your rosé, or even if you don't and you want to be adventurous, join us on Thursday. It's gonna double head with the Expats Portugal social. So we're gonna have both communities. And if it was anything like last week's, it is going to be an absolute hoot. But Gary's asking there, do I play safe or do I take the high risk option? If you're asking me, Gary, high risk always. Go risky, Paul agrees, but have the safe option at hand. There's a wise man speaking. You see, I would just be like, go risky and have done. But that's good advice, Paul. A safe option. Top news, we have a flower on our olive tree in the Cotswolds. Wow. Global warming or not? Or do we not believe in that? Oh, God, that's a can of worms to open, isn't it, at 9:34 on a Monday morning? I'm going to quickly scarper to my email and read this to you from Ray. So a really nice email. Ray was talking about the approaches to learning the Portuguese language. He says to me, you're like the Pied Piper, Carl, gathering all kinds of people on various topics. I just listened to your discussion regarding learning Portuguese. At the end of this note, I have a few suggestions as to where you may choose to encourage your audience's learning efforts. So this is good for all of us, guys. Have another sip of your tea and draw in, and let's listen to Ray's advice here on learning the language. These are just suggestions to help fertilize the field of learning. He's a bit of a poet as well, clearly. I have learned 3 languages: English, which my wife says I speak poorly; German, as my mother was born in Austria and I have family there; and Italian, which I learned as I thought I was going to retire there, but instead fell in love with Portugal. Brilliant. I am writing to you this morning as learning languages is my hobby, and with your permission, I would like to share how I was successful in my learning. So this is a step-by-step from Ray, which is really helpful. Number 1, practice. In a variety of venues, as different pathways of learning are like a layered cake. Each layer tastes better, layer upon layer. That's a nice way of looking at it, Ray. Learning a language, number 2, needs to have some basics. Yes, grammar. Boo. I have learned the grammar of Italian and German by going to a group learning situation to learn verbs, adjectives, and so on. There are a number of venues to accomplish this. The Portuguese government has classes. My friend in Porto is doing this and says it is excellent. Class size about 20. Marvelous. B, I have learned my Italian by joining a global Italian learn group called Dante Alighieri. I took 3 years of technical learning. You're putting us off now, right? Formal learning of some kind is necessary. Okay. But eventually you must speak the language. I vacationed in a couple of little Italian towns with no English speakers and went to class. Here are some basic models. Hire an instructor, as you mentioned, with a group of no more than 5 people. So there's a great idea, isn't it? Just get together. Nice way of, bonding with buddies, making new friends, of course, in your area, is to create a little class and employ an instructor between you, a teacher. The idea is to have each member listen and speak. Hearing and speaking a lot is key, Oh, hearing and speaking a lot is key. My German group did this, and after 3 years, I was very fluent in German. Okay, got that to look forward to. But obviously in Portuguese. Imagine that, learning the wrong language for 3 years. The human mind learns by constantly repeating the sounds of the language. So I bought a language tape and listened to this tape on all my hiking in the hills. Listening to native speakers is key. Okay, so yes, watch the news, watch children's TV, listen to the radio, of course, as mentioned previously. In the Seattle area, there is a group, the sister city of Perugia, where absolutely no English is spoken. When I started, I just listened. And 2 years later, I was an active speaker. Also, if you looked around the table, you would find people individually who spoke Italian, German, Russian, French, and Spanish. When you find yourself in a group like this, you are in a golden spot where all these people have learned 2 to 5 languages each. Show-offs. This group spoke pure and only Italian. So there's a thing. Getting a Portuguese-only speaking group. Many groups typically get together and say they will speak a language, say Portuguese, but instead they spend 80% of their time speaking English. Not a good idea. Okay, so be disciplined on yourselves there with your Portuguese-only group. Lastly, point F here, I have put together a group with an Italian friend of mine who was our informal leader. We would speak and Giorgio would help us focus and pronounce our vocabulary and phrases correctly. So find yourself a native speaker. That's a great idea. The key points are practice continually. Have a native speaker listen to what you're saying and make many, many mistakes. Making mistakes and then practicing the correct way is key. The quicker the learner can escape from the basic building blocks of the grammar and actually start speaking is where the gold is hidden. I think that's going to be a magical moment when you get to that, Ray. Good point. Becoming the language ambassador, like being an ambassador of your town, as you mentioned today, this was last week. Yeah, more on that as the week unfolds. We've created a bit of controversy with this idea of calling ourselves ambassadors. More about that later this week. Creating little groups that meet and speak only Portuguese will be something you may continue to encourage. You may start with just 1 or 2 groups, have them meet for 6 months, and then have a member of the group get on your program and share the progress and methodology they employed. Yes, all are welcome. I mean, anything that helps us learn Portuguese, you come and talk about it here for sure. It's a good idea, right? This would tie in with your key topics of the culture, keeping life traditional and Portuguese language goals. The goal may be to pass the A2 exam if that is what people want to accomplish. Your brand and venue really leads naturally to encourage people toward learning Portuguese. Thank you, Ray. These are just my experiences, and I wanted to politely suggest a variety of alternatives of learning. My experience with language takes 2 to 5 years to learn well. So, folks, that is so lovely. Thank you, Ray. Really appreciate that. But once a learner, he concludes here, gets involved, the satisfaction of speaking at the coffee shop is the motivator. And we've all done that a little bit, haven't we, with our bar Portuguese or our cafe Portuguese. It is a real buzz. It's, it's highs and lows, isn't it? The highs of like, yes, I did all of that in Portuguese, and the lows of like someone just looking at you going, which is really crestfalling sometimes, isn't it? My wife says I smile more when speaking German or Italian. And I'm sure the same is true for Portuguese for all of us someday soon. So thank you for that, Ray. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your kind feedback as well. Okay, folks, I think we'll draw to a close there. Apart from, let me just introduce you to more on the language tomorrow with Mia. I will show you her picture here. Live on the show. Here she is. I am Mia, she says, and I've been called by many a language freak. We're getting quite a theme, aren't we? Immersing ourselves in the Portuguese, which I think we should absolutely do. I think we're all agreed on that, aren't we? I am an experienced teacher with years of training, and my goal is to deliver the best teaching service to my students. I used to teach children as well as adults, and I am always trying to improve my skills. Well, Mia will be joining us tomorrow, and I'm sure she will have an offer for us of some sort as well. From the time I was a little girl and went to Spain on vacation with my parents, I loved to meet new friends from around the world and try to learn something new in their language. Later on, when I was a teenager, I went to many European youth exchanges where I met people from all sorts of countries and backgrounds, and I got more and more interested in learning different languages. I went on to study German and English at school and later on at university, and slowly my passion for teaching languages started drawing itself in front of me. This realization came because when my foreign students asked me about my own language, I was thrilled to tell them all about it. Actually, there was nothing I enjoyed more than to pass on the information I had about this amazing world of linguistics. So here we go. Born and raised in Porto. She'll be with us tomorrow. There is a free course that she's offering, Kickstart Your Portuguese, the Basics. She'll tell us more about that tomorrow. And
she's on all of the social media places. Actually, that's how I met Mia, on Instagram, something I still don't really understand. But fortunately, mercifully, we managed to have a conversation on there, and she's with us tomorrow morning. Tuesday. It's Tuesday tomorrow. Terça-feira tomorrow. And we'll have a chat with Mia, and we'll learn a bit as well. Otherwise, what's the point? So let's do that tomorrow. Thank you for your company today. Gary, finishing here by saying, I say high risk, but it's still only around €5. That's a high risk wine, sometimes €5. And if you don't like it, you can always clean your floor with it. Just joking. I don't think many people are going to be doing that. Yes, Paul, I was frozen, but I let it go, and I'm back again. Sorry, I crashed it by trying to put too much on the screen. Her classes are great. It is how I learn so quickly. So we've already got a glowing endorsement for Mia, which is fantastic. So we'll meet her tomorrow. We'll meet her Mia tomorrow. It's not Italian, it's Portuguese. And it just remains for me to wish you an excellent buon segunda to you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Até amanhã. Até logo. Até já. Até próxima. Beijinhos, abrazos. Ciao, ciao. Have a great day, folks. Goodbye.